Welcome to the Deep Dive from the Moore's Global Finance Podcast team. I'm John, and with me is Tiffany.
Hi, everyone.
Today we're going deep on Goldco and American Hartford Gold.
Two big names in gold and silver IRAs.
Exactly. We've got research comparing them head-to-head, and we'll break down what you need to know.
Yeah, we'll look at the key differences, what makes each company stand out, and what to think about when you're considering a gold IRA.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just picking a company you've heard of. So both of these companies specialize in precious metals IRAs, which are getting more and more popular these days. Why is that?
Well, in uncertain economic times or when inflation's on the rise, precious metals like gold and silver, they tend to hold their value better than traditional assets.
Makes sense. So people see them as a way to safeguard their savings.
Exactly, kind of a safety net.
Okay, so let's start with Goldco. They've got a pretty interesting story, starting with their founder, Trevor Gerst, back in 2006.
Yeah, Gerst's vision was all about protecting retirement savings, especially when the economy is a bit shaky, and he saw precious metals as a key part of that.
And it seems like his message really connected with people.
It did. Goldco's even got endorsements from big names like Sean Hannity and Chuck Norris.
Wow, that's some serious star power right there.
It is. And on top of that, they've racked up a bunch of awards and recognition in the industry. They're definitely a leader in this space.
Okay, so they've got the experience. Now, on the other side, we have American Hartford Gold. It's a family-run business started by Sanford Man in 2015.
Yep. They're a bit newer than Goldco, but they've built a reputation fast. They're known for being transparent, educating their customers, and offering really personalized service.
Sounds like both companies really focus on guiding their clients through the whole process, from moving funds over to picking and storing the metals. That's got to be comforting for a lot of people, especially if this is their first time investing in gold.
Definitely. Now, there are some big differences between the two that we need to talk about. One of the first things you'll notice is the minimum investment. Goldco's is $25,000. American Hartford Gold's is lower. It's $10,000 for IRAs, and they even have cash accounts where you can start with just $5,000.
Oh, wow. So that lower entry point with American Hartford Gold could be a big deal for someone who's just starting to explore precious metals as an investment.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, you've got to consider the fees, and I know you mentioned those can be a bit tricky.
They can. Yeah, with Goldco, their fees are set up so that the more you invest, the better the rate you get. So someone putting in a lot of money might end up paying a lower percentage overall.
So it's like they reward you for investing more.
Right. Now, American Hartford Gold has a custodian fee that's part of their pricing.
So it's not as easy as saying one company is cheaper than the other.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to look at how much you're investing and how those fees work.
Exactly. You got to do the math and see what works best for you personally. And it's not just about fees. We also need to look at storage, which is another area where these companies take different approaches.
Okay.
Goldco offers both segregated and non-segregated storage in high-security facilities here in the U.S.
Now, most people probably know what a vault is. But what exactly does segregated storage mean? Is it like having your own little private safe inside the vault?
It's kind of like that. Yeah, with segregated storage, your metals are kept completely separate from everyone else's. It's like an extra layer of security and peace of mind, but it usually costs a bit more.
Okay, so it's for people who really want that top-tier protection.
Yeah, non-segregated storage is where your metals are stored with other people's, which is usually cheaper.
So with Goldco, you get to choose between those two methods.
Yeah.
But what about American Hartford Gold? What do they offer?
They do things a little differently. They actually give you the option of having your precious metals delivered right to your door.
Wait, you can have gold delivered to your house?
You can store it yourself, or they offer storage in different vaults, both here in the U.S. and even internationally.
Wow, home delivery of gold.
Ah.
That's pretty wild. I bet most people still choose the vault option, though, right? For security.
Probably. But it's interesting to have that choice.
Definitely. So both companies are trying to give investors options, whether it's storage or the type of account they open. But with all these choices, it can be overwhelming. Where should someone even start if they're thinking about a gold IRA?
The most important thing is to do your homework. Understand what role precious metals play in a diversified portfolio.
Don't just jump in because of a flashy ad or because Sean Hannity said so.
Exactly. Learn about how gold and silver have performed historically, what affects their prices, and what the potential risks and rewards are.
So basically educate yourself before you invest.
Yes, exactly.
That's always good advice. And speaking of education, what about the resources these companies offer? Do they actually help people make informed decisions?
They both do. Both Goldco and American Hartford Gold have put a lot of effort into creating educational materials for their clients. They've got articles, videos, even dedicated representatives who can answer your questions and walk you through everything.
Okay, so they're not just trying to make a sale. They want their clients to really understand what they're getting into.
Right, they want to build that trust and make sure everyone's on the same page.
That's good to hear. But of course, we can't forget about customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
What's the word on the street? Are people happy with these companies?
Both companies get consistently high ratings on different review platforms, like the Better Business Bureau, Trustpilot, Consumer Affairs, Google Reviews. They both seem to be really dedicated to customer service and building those long-term relationships.
That's a good sign. Yeah. It seems like they're both focused on making the experience positive, which is so important in an industry that can feel intimidating to newcomers.
It is. And they each have their own unique strengths. Goldco really leans into their experience and expertise. They've been around since 2006, so they've seen a lot. They also highlight those high-security storage options, their buyback guarantee, and their commitment to educating their clients.
So they're the we've been there, done that option. And what about American Hartford Gold? What are their selling points?
They really emphasize their transparency, that lower minimum investment, and the flexibility they offer with storage, including that home delivery option. They also have a streamlined buyback program, which might be appealing to people who want to be able to cash out quickly if they need to.
Okay, so they're more like the we make it easy option.
Yeah, something like that.
Interesting to see how they're each targeting slightly different types of investors with their messaging. But I think the most important thing is that people feel empowered to make a decision that works for them.
Absolutely. It's not about which company is better. It's about finding the right fit for your own situation.
I like that. It's like finding the right partner for your financial journey.
Exactly.
So let's dig a little deeper into some of those key differences between Goldco and American Hartford Gold. We've touched on them, but I think it's worth really exploring those nuances.
Definitely. Understanding those little details can make a big difference when you're making a decision. Shall we start with those contrasting minimum investments?
Yeah, let's do that.
That's a great place to start. Goldco's minimum of $25,000 is definitely higher than American Hartford Gold's $10,000 for IRAs. And remember, they even have those cash accounts that start at just $5,000. So for some people, that could be a big factor, especially if they're just getting started with precious metals.
Yeah, it's a big difference for sure. And then there are those fee structures, which can really impact your returns. I'm curious, for someone investing, say, $50,000, how would Goldco's tiered fees compare to American Hartford Gold's setup with the custodian fee?
Good question. With Goldco's tiered fees, you'd probably pay a slightly higher percentage at first compared to American Hartford Gold, but as your investment grows, that percentage goes down. So in the long run, you might end up paying less overall.
Interesting. So it's like a long-term reward for sticking with them.
Yeah, and with American Hartford Gold, you've got that steady custodian fee, which might be more predictable.
So it's a trade-off between potential savings in the future and knowing exactly what you'll be paying now.
Right. It all comes down to your own investment strategy and what you're comfortable with.
Makes sense. So you really have to do your homework and see which structure fits your goals better. Now, let's talk about storage again, because I think that's a really interesting point of comparison. You mentioned Goldco offers both segregated and non-segregated storage. Can you explain why someone might choose one over the other?
Sure. Segregated storage is usually the choice for investors who really prioritize security above everything else. They like knowing that their metals are completely separate from everyone else's. It's like an extra level of reassurance, even though it costs more.
So it's that premium level of protection.
Exactly. Non-segregated storage is more common, though. It's usually cheaper, and a lot of investors, especially those with larger holdings, trust the security measures in place at the facilities, and they know their metals are insured.
Right. So it's about balancing cost with peace of mind. And then you've got American Hartford Gold with that home delivery option. What are the pros and cons of that?
Well, the biggest pro is that you have direct control over your assets. You can actually hold your gold in your hands. Some people find that really appealing, especially if they're concerned about the economy or the stability of the financial system.
Yeah, I can see the appeal of that. But of course, there are risks too, right?
Definitely security is the big one. You need a really secure safe or a vault, ideally with multiple layers of protection like alarms and surveillance. And you need to make sure your homeowner's insurance covers the full value of your gold.
So it's not something to take lightly. You
Yeah.
have to be prepared to handle that responsibility.
Absolutely. And even then, some people are still nervous about having that much valuable stuff at home.
Right. It's a personal decision for sure. But American Hartford Gold also offers vault storage both here and overseas. They've got options for everyone.
They do. They try to be flexible.
Okay, so both companies are trying to give investors choices, but it can still feel overwhelming. Where should someone start if they're feeling lost in the world of Gold IRAs?
Start with the basics. Why are you considering a Gold IRA? What are your financial goals? How much risk are you comfortable with? Once you have a better understanding of your own situation, you can start narrowing down your options.
Right. It's like figuring out your own personal roadmap before you set out on the journey.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to financial advisors, read up on it, and reach out to the companies themselves. Goldco and American Hartford Gold both have teams of experts who can answer your questions and guide you through the process.
There's no shame in asking for help, especially when it comes to something as important as your retirement.
Nope, not at all.
Speaking of help, let's talk about customer support. What can someone expect in terms of communication and responsiveness from these companies?
Both companies have really good reputations for customer service. They have dedicated teams you can reach by phone, email, even live chat. And they're usually pretty proactive about reaching out to their clients with updates and advice.
So it's not just a one-time transaction. They're building relationships.
That's right. They want to make sure their clients feel supported and informed.
Good to hear. And we talked earlier about those great reviews online. What are some of the common themes you see in the feedback?
The words you see over and over are trustworthy, knowledgeable, and helpful. People really praise the professionalism and expertise of the representatives, and they like that the communication is clear and easy to understand. And of course, they appreciate the feeling of security they get when they're working with these companies.
Makes sense. So it seems like Goldco and American Hartford Gold are both genuinely invested in providing a positive experience. But even with all the things they have in common, they still have their own unique selling points. What would you say are the key things that set Goldco apart?
Goldco really leans on their experience. They've been in the game for almost 20 years. They've weathered a lot of ups and downs in the market, so that can be reassuring for people who are looking for stability and expertise.
The veterans?
Yeah, you could say that. And what about American Hartford Gold? What are they known for? They focus on making things easy and flexible. That lower minimum investment makes them a good choice for people who are new to this. And they've got all those storage options, including home delivery, so they can cater to different needs. And they're big on transparency and education. They want their clients to feel confident and empowered.
Interesting. So Goldco is more about experience, and American Hartford Gold is more about flexibility.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
And it's up to each individual to decide what matters most to them.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding the company that aligns with your goals and your personality.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's step back for a minute and look at the bigger picture. Why are Gold IRAs becoming so popular these days? What's driving all this interest?
That's a great question, and I think there are a few reasons. We're living in a time of a lot of economic uncertainty. Inflation's up, there's tension around the world, and the stock market's been a bit crazy. So a lot of people are looking for ways to protect their savings and diversify their investments.
So it's that classic flight to safety when things feel shaky.
Exactly. And gold has always been seen as a safe haven asset. But I think the current economic climate has really amplified those concerns. We haven't seen inflation this high in decades, and there's a sense that traditional investments like stocks and bonds might not be enough anymore.
So gold is starting to look more and more attractive as a way to potentially hold on to your purchasing power and ride out the storm. But let's not forget that gold, like any investment, has its risks.
You're right. It's not a guaranteed win. Gold prices can go up and down, and there's no promise that it will do better than other assets. So it's really important to approach Gold IRAs with a balanced view. Understand the potential benefits, but also the potential downsides.
So it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Yeah.
It's an investment that requires careful thought and a long-term mindset.
Exactly.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into gold and silver IRAs with Goldco and American Hartford Gold.
We've looked at what these companies offer, what makes them different, and it's clear that they're both solid options for people who want to add precious metals to their retirement portfolio.
Yeah, they each seem to appeal to a slightly different kind of investor. Goldco, with their focus on experience and security, probably attracts people who want a company that's been around the block and offers really solid storage options.
And then you have American Hartford Gold, who are all about accessibility and flexibility. They might be a better fit for newer investors or those who want more control over their investments.
Right, it all comes down to what you're looking for and what feels right for you. But before we wrap things up, I want to talk about something we haven't really touched on yet. The risks of gold IRAs. We've talked about the good stuff, But what about the potential downsides? What do people need to watch out for?
That's a really important question. It's easy to get excited about gold, especially when the economy feels uncertain. But you have to remember that gold is a commodity and the price can go up and down a lot. There's no guarantee that it will increase in value and you could actually lose money.
So it's not a sure thing.
No, it's not. And another thing to consider is that gold doesn't pay dividends or interest. Unlike stocks or bonds, it doesn't generate any passive income. So your returns depend entirely on the market price, which can be affected by all sorts of things like global supply and demand and even political events.
So you're basically betting on the future price of gold.
Right. And speaking of the future, you also have to think about taxes.
Yeah.
With a Gold IRA, you get tax advantages while you're saving, but you'll have to pay taxes when you start taking distributions in retirement.
So you can't just ignore the tax implications.
Nope. You got to factor that into your overall plan.
And one last thing to keep in mind is the possibility of scams. Unfortunately, there are some shady people out there who try to take advantage of investors, especially those who are new to Gold IRAs. So it's really important to stick with reputable companies like Goldco and American Hartford Gold. They have a good track record, they're transparent about how they operate, and they're committed to treating their customers.
Okay.
Right.
Exactly. Don't fall for those too good to be true promises. If something sounds fishy, it probably is.
Good advice. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key things you want our listeners to take away from this?
First, Gold IRAs can be a really useful way to diversify your investments, but they're not right for everyone. Think about your financial goals, how much risk you're comfortable with, and how long you plan to invest before you jump in.
So make sure it fits your personal situation.
Exactly. Second, do your research. Learn about gold, how it's performed in the past, and what factors can affect its price.
Don't just go in blind.
Right. Third, stick with trustworthy companies like Goldco and American Hartford Gold. They have a solid reputation and they'll treat you right.
And finally, remember that investing is a long game. Don't panic if the market goes up and down. Think long term and make decisions based on your overall plan.
Those are all great points. And if you're still not sure, talk to a financial advisor. They can help you figure out what's best for you.
So there you have, folks. That's our deep dive into the world of gold and silver IRAs. We hope this has given you some valuable insights and helped you feel more confident about making informed decisions about your investments.
Thanks for joining us.
And remember, the best investments are the ones that give you peace of mind, knowing that you're on the right track to achieving your financial goals. We'll see you next time on the Deep Dive from the Moore's Global Finance Podcast team.